What a crazy 24 hours. I wanted to go live last night and jump on and be able to count down the election with you guys and go through it front to back. And I didn't get a chance to do that, which I think hindsight was probably maybe a good thing. My kids were dying for whatever reason. My kids were just dying to watch the election and break it down. So they stayed up and they watched most of it until they passed out. But, you know, they had their favorites. And I try not to influence too much, but, you know, usually my household swings on the conservative side, man. We try to hold on to biblical principles and values because God knows if there's anything else in my life that I need, it's definitely biblical principles and values. So my kids catch a good wind of that. So they were in there, they were fired up, charged up. And I think also, man, like as much as a child can understand, they understood that the stakes were high. Maybe that's just listening to stuff at school. Maybe it's just listening to me and mama talking when we don't think that they're listening. And granted, it's probably because of some things that I said to them, but I'm pretty transparent with my kids, man. I usually try to let them get a good bead on what's going on in the world. For me, with most of my life, because of growing up in Africa and because of the turmoil and all the stuff that was taking place over there, man, you were so aware of how fragile life was and how slippery the slope was between just being comfortable and everything ended up in chaos, man. So that's kind of the way that I wanted to raise my kids, man. So typically, and I was this way with my older girls as well, I just kept them very well informed up on what's going on, and I'll give them my opinion on what I think life looks like, and of course make their own decisions. But we stayed up last night and we watched the election all the way through, and wow, what a crazy night. Let me start this off by saying I was unsure. I was unsure how last night would go. I've spent the past probably several years preparing for how last night would go. And one of the beautiful things in preparedness is when you start to make preparations for bad times, you do it all with the assumption that bad things can happen, and if nothing happens, you've got plenty, right? You're in a place where you can always just be in abundance in the midst of bad times or good times. And so that's kind of always the mentality that we've taken. But we've been preparing, my family and I have been preparing for the fall of American civilization because we felt that it was that dire. I'll be honest, man, there's a lot of things, and we'll jump into it a little bit tonight. There's a lot of things last night and over the past 24 hours that has revealed a lot about what's happened over the past 5 years. And so we can jump into some of this tonight, man. But last night was an incredible night for the country. And I'm going to say that not in the sense of I get that half of the country is excited about the results and there's half of the country that's really, really upset. And I think this is one of those times, and I've always been this guy. 4 years ago, this was my third time voting for President Trump. Third time. Last year, when it hit, we sucked it up, knowing that it was fraudulent. In my heart and mind, I knew it was fraudulent. I remember watching Georgia in 2020, watching that whole thing going down, right? And then all of a sudden, halfway through the night, it's neck and neck, and then we got to shut everything down because a pipe is leaking or a pipe busted or something like that. And the whole thing gets shut down. There was so much of it that was fraudulent to me. It was absolutely evident. And I've spent the past 4 years with people just on my back, just like you're out of your mind. This is crazy. There was no fraud. There was no nothing. Listen, guys, there's always fraud when it comes down to elections, when it comes down to any type of sport or any type of combat, right? Any type of thing where people are competing against each other, there's always cheating. It just happens. It's just what it is. The amount of cheating, I think, is really what's off the charts, man. I was looking at a chart today where it shows how many people voted in 2012, how many people voted in 2016, how many people voted in 2020, and then how many people voted yesterday. And there's another 15 million votes that nobody knows where they came from. And it's a crazy clear indication, an absolutely crazy clear indication that there was some crazy fraud in 2020. So I've stood strong on this the whole time, and I'm not going to bend on this. I've had people in my life just try to, hey, man, you're crazy, bro. You got to get off the conspiracy stuff. You know what? You can't convince me against what my eyes have seen. I'm sure of it. So I think last night, it was a beautiful thing for our country. I really, really do. I know that no matter which way it swings, there's always going to be people that feel left out. There's always going to be people that feel kind of disenfranchised, like they got robbed, because we're all invested. We're all invested in this, guys. I know that we're all invested. Let me take a pause real quick. Make sure that the audio, if you guys are watching on Facebook or on CruceTalk on YouTube, do me a favor and just let me know if we're having any audio issues last night. If we have any idiot issues, let me know too, because I can be that guy sometimes. I wanted to go live last night, and I really wanted to dive in and just break the election down. And maybe I wasn't supposed to. Maybe I was supposed to be sitting there with my kids and watching it. But if we have any audio issues, man, I got my Facebook feed up on. Let me know. What a crazy night. What a crazy night. So my family and I, we went into last night absolutely unsure exactly how it was going to go down, what was going to happen. We had a firm feeling that the majority of the country felt like we did, that the past 4 years we've been slowly stripped down. We've been lied to, we've been manipulated, and over the past 4 years, we're sitting there watching the price of gas go up, which happens. Okay, I get it. But let me tell you something I've never seen happen. I've never watched Wendy's take away the 4 for $4. That's when you know it's getting serious. When Wendy's comes in and says, we cannot afford to do a junior bacon cheeseburger 4 for $4, now you know the stakes are high. They have changed. They went to the biggie bag. Biggie bag doesn't mean you get more food. It means you pay more for the same food, right? So I think that there is absolutely no debate that any of us have spent a ridiculous amount more just to keep afloat over the past 4 years. The economy is ridiculous, right? Our money is, the rate of inflation is so insane. And I get that this is not something that we as Americans go through, right? We don't typically see a lot of inflation. If you travel a lot and you have to change from dollars into euros, or if you have to change from dollars into pounds, or if you have to change money, then you'll get an idea of the exchange rate. But for the most part, if you're just dealing in dollars within your local community, you don't really see a rise in inflation. It takes a while for people to realize that they're getting screwed by the government. It takes a while. Growing up in Africa, man, this was one thing. I remember there was a point in Congo where we would have to take, they would have a million Zaire note, and it would have zeros printed across the top of the note. And you would have to take a book bag of these million Zaire notes just to go buy a sack of potatoes. So I've seen that type of inflation, and it may seem like, hey, this is not even a real thing. It's absolutely a real thing. I've lived it. And the way that thing starts to go downhill, there's just no stopping it once it starts, man. I think that most Americans have felt disenfranchised. Most Americans have felt robbed. Most Americans have felt like they've been lied to by the media for 4.5 years, saying, don't believe what your eyes are seeing, believe what we're telling you. And they lie, and they lie, and they lie. And we just fall into this stupid slumber, just kind of, okay, we'll just go along with it. And I think what last night showed was that the American people are not going along with it anymore. We're done. And it wasn't just those of us who were done 4 years ago, who were done 8 years ago. It was the majority of the population of the United States who was asleep last election, who felt like everything is just going to always be good. And for the most part, that's a lot of us. There's a lot of American people who just, think about it. When you are stuck so neck deep in your job and your only thing is, let me feed my kids, let me keep a roof over my head, let me just focus on my relationship with my spouse, because when times get tough, that gets rocky. We're dealing and juggling so many different things that a lot of times we don't really take time to think about what's happening in politics or in the government or what's happening in our communities. And so I think last night was the American people standing up and saying, we've had enough. Enough is enough. And I tell you, like, going back to 2020 with the absolute 100% certainty that there was fraud in 2020. We had an additional 15 million votes that weren't there in 2016 and weren't there yesterday, but just magically appeared in 2020. So I think we can be sure that there was absolute fraud. But let me tell you something. This is one thing. When it comes to politics, I've never been a Republican or Democrat type person. I had my childhood, I had my youth, I spent some time in the gang. The gang stuff is over. I don't want to be with this gang or that gang, or I don't want any of that. I've always tried to be a person and teach my kids to be this person. Look, you as an intellectual mind with discernment, observe the issues that are in front of you, try to make the best, most informed decision that you can with the information that you have, pray about it, and then go in and do the best that you can. Sometimes you're going to win. Sometimes you're going to lose. Sometimes the decisions that you make are going to assist you immediately. Sometimes they're going to tear you down immediately. Sometimes the decisions you make take a couple years before you really start feeling the blessings of the decisions that you've made or the stances that you've taken. And so I look at it like this. All things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And I've seen this in my life so much, man, that all things work together for good. It's easy to think, hey, man, when things are going good, that's good. When my finances are straight, that's good. But when all of a sudden the carpet gets pulled out from underneath your feet and you're struggling and you don't have barely enough to make ends meet, or when your relationship is on the rocks, when everything feels like it's falling apart, it's hard to believe that all things work together for good. But one thing that I've seen in my life, and I've seen this probably more through my mistakes than I have seen it through the moments where I've done the right thing, is that there was never a moment in my life where God was not present. There was never a moment in my life, no matter how low I got, that God was not there. He didn't always snap his fingers and magically make my situation change. Sometimes I needed to go through the things that I was going through so I could learn the things that I needed to learn, so that when I finally climbed out of the mess that I had made, I was able to get back on my feet and start a good path forward in the right direction. I think what we saw in 2020, as much as it would have been great to not see the fraud take place, for have us to not have needed to go through 4 years of this stupidity. 4 years ago, I don't think that if it would have not happened the way that it did, I don't think we would be where we're at today. More people had to see. More people had to see the deception, the deceit, the wickedness, the lies, the corruption that is just entrenched in every facet of our government. From these three-letter agencies to our politicians, to big tech, to all of it. You've got this just sick, nasty wickedness, this manipulative desire to not just control people and control the way that they think, but to control every aspect of our lives, and not for the better. I think had it not gone the way that it did in 2020, we wouldn't be here in 2024. Partly because, also, let's say that Trump had won in 2020. We didn't have the House. We didn't have the Senate. He would have spent 4 years just fighting with these people, with them impeaching him, them throwing all kinds of crazy stuff at him. He would have got nothing done. America had to wake up. We had to see exactly how bad what in front of us was, how bad it was. We had to see the extent of the lies. We had to see it. And we had to go through it. We had to get to the point, and some of you guys on this feed are probably feeling the same way that I am. None of us are where we want to be financially. None of us can really say, man, I'm doing good. Most of us are saying, I'm treading water. I'm all right. I'm good. I'm getting through. Let me tell you, when you weigh a society that is built on corruption and deceit and lies and wickedness, and you weigh that next to a society that is built on, let's have a little bit of integrity. Let's have some integrity in our elections. Let's enforce integrity in our politicians. Let's hold them accountable to this. Let's first have integrity in ourselves with the decisions that we make. First and foremost, being loving our neighbor as ourselves, no matter who they voted for. When we have that integrity and we say, look, the one thing that I will not trade or give up is integrity. I want there to be integrity in every aspect of my life around me. I want it in my politicians. I want it in my family. I want it in my preachers. I expect it. And I have to first have it in me, right? When you weigh that next to any type of government that is corrupt, is just full of lies, where these people are taking your hard-earned dollars and sending them overseas for wars that we don't want. And you're sitting here trying to figure out how to pay for milk and cereal and eggs this week with your kids. When you weigh those two things, there is only so long that people can pretend to be blind in the middle, not genuinely seeing what the right path is. And trust me, there will be people on this feed. There's a lot of people online today that are still upset. I've heard people say, I don't care about anything. I just want the right to an abortion. But you have the right to an abortion. This whole abortion issue has been, let me tell you, and I don't care what anybody thinks about this. Me personally, I will never, and I say this live, knowing that none of you have any idea what abortion or the thought of it or the policy of it, what it means to me and my family. You have no idea how that has affected me and my family in ways that I may never speak of, right? Me as a man, I have to look and say, okay, God has given us life. Now, I get that there's circumstances, right? And I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with this. Cool. Totally cool. I love you even if you disagree with me. You can hate me if you want to. I, as a man, I have to say, if God created every life with purpose, who am I to take it? I get that there are circumstances. The reality is that the circumstances to which this abortion issue is brought up are not really the majority of what's taking place when it comes down to the issue. I think that right now, all over the internet, you got all the media and everybody saying Trump has taken away women's rights. Right now, there's not a state in the United States where you can't get abortion. Somebody fact check me. Let me know if I'm wrong. There's not a state where you can't go get an abortion if you need it. But this has been the issue, the hill that we are dying on. Say, we'll let the economy fail. We'll let all this. I just want the right to kill my unborn baby. Now, I'm nobody to judge anybody, and I'll never be that guy. But I will say this, when it comes down to the livelihood and the safety of my kids, there's a point where each one of us has to make decisions. We have to make stances. We've got to make stances. For me, I'm a very pro-life person. I love God. I love his creation. I love animals. I love children. God knows if I could afford more kids, I would have more kids tomorrow. I told my daughter the other day, I was like, you're going to have to get on the grandbaby thing. If not, I'm going to have some more kids. I love life. I love the gift of life. It's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. I will also be honest in saying that I have 6 kids, and there was not one time that I had a child where the thought did not cross my mind to opt out. I'm not any better. I don't think any of us are any better than anybody. We just make decisions, and life is still not easy. And we try our best to just, stand where we stand, and just that is what it is. But this whole election was turned into this abortion issue, right? This was one of the biggest things. Women's rights. Listen, regardless what the media has told you, you've not lost the right to do that. Okay, so what were the other issues that were really, really at stake? I think the economy was first, man. The economy was big. I mean, people are struggling. People are hurting. And most Americans, they just want to get back to living their lives again. They want to get back to loving their families, doing whatever, watching football on Sundays, whatever it is that they do, they just want to do it and be left alone. And that was one of these things. But yet you get on the media and they're telling you, no, everything's fine. I'm not stupid. I see it. I'm watching it in real time happen. I'm watching this thing just unfold. The economy, America is falling apart. I remember a couple years ago, I told a couple friends of mine, I said, Russia is about to go to war with Ukraine. And they laughed. I had friends that laughed. And I was like, guys, listen, Russia is about to go to war with Ukraine. There's a great possibility that China may try to invade Taiwan. And both of these scenarios could end very badly for the United States. We've got most of our chips being made in Taiwan. So the United States is going to side with Taiwan. Obviously, the United States, under the last administration that was deeply embedded in Ukraine, has got a huge, piece there that they want to hold. I was like, this thing is going to come here. Eventually, it's going to come here. Listen, I'm anti-war. I've seen enough killing in my life. I've seen enough war. I've seen it at a young age, enough to know that this is not what I want for my kids. And I don't want that to touch our doorstep. Now, let me also say very boldly that the possibility that it may touch our doorstep is very likely. We still have a month, 2 months before the new administration gets in. A lot can happen in 2 months. A lot can happen in 2 months. We are already on the verge of World War III. If you guys don't believe me, just turn off the mainstream media and start looking, go through X. There's some great stuff on YouTube, man. There's some, Redacted is one of them. Redacted is a great, that most of these people were leftist people. You know what's crazy is I was looking at the ticket last night. I was looking at all the people that were a part of what this new movement of America. And I was like, all of these people are Democrats. Every single one of them. Trump was a Democrat. RFK was a Democrat. Elon Musk was a Democrat. The only one that probably wasn't a Democrat may have been Joe Rogan. Like, seriously, he's probably always been libertarian. I don't know. But I'm looking at it, and I was like, this is, and I said this to so many people years ago. It was like, there's going to be a point, and this is just the way that it rolls. When you start to get into a progressive society, when society decides we want to progress in this direction, and the direction that you're progressing is in areas like abortion, at what point do they go so far that you can't follow? Most of you guys on this feed tonight are probably not pro-life. Totally cool. I got you. At what point does it go so far left that you can't follow? Is it up until birth? Is it a year afterwards? Because you had the governor of Virginia was talking about up until birth, and even afterwards, the parents can decide what we're going to do with the baby and whether or not they want to keep it. And the thing is with these progressive ideas, there's going to come a point where it goes so far left that the average person that's not down with this kind of craziness is just going to say, man, I'm not leaving this party. This party's leaving me. And you've seen it with every person that was on that stage last night, every person that was involved. Tulsi Gabbard, another amazing patriot, another woman who fought for her country. God, I mean, I would love to see that woman president. I would have voted for her. I think what we saw last night was we saw a new awakening. And I genuinely pray this. And I say this to my friends that are on the right, my friends that are on the left. And trust me, I live in a neighborhood that's mostly Democrat. I'm probably the only guy on my street that thinks like me. And that's cool. It doesn't bother me in the least. Because at the end of the day, my mandate is not towards politics. My mandate is not left or right. My mandate is love your neighbor as yourself. My mandate is, what would Jesus do? That's the only thing that I'm seeking after. I've gotten to this place in my life where I've chased so many different things, and none of them have filled me. Most of the time, I come out more empty than when I went in. The politicians can't save us. Your pastor can't save us. Your priest can't save us. There's only one Savior. And this is what I found in this election. And sadly, you had a lot of Christians that were saying, I'm not going to vote. I got to sit this one out. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way as a Christian you can sit this one out. With the issues that are at hand, we're talking about if a child decides, a child has no idea what color they want to use out of the crayon box. I asked my kids this as a test. I said, hey guys, if you could decorate your room any way that you want, how would you do it? They said Star Wars. Awesome. I'm down with that. I would totally decorate your room Star Wars. If you could have done it last year, how would you have done it? Oh, we would have done it with Sonic. Cool. If it was still Sonic now, would you be happy? No, we'd want Star Wars. Of course, because you're a child. You're absolutely indecisive. I'm an adult and I'm indecisive. Who in their right mind thinks that a child who is incapable of making logical, rational decisions about themselves, most people don't even begin to understand who they are until they're in their 20s. Most of us until we're in our 30s, and some of y'all still haven't grown up yet. And I'm one of you. Right? How are we going to let a child make a decision that is a permanent, life-altering decision about their body? And then tell them, if you feel like you're a little boy or you're a little girl, you can be that. And we will go ahead and we'll put you on hormone blockers. We'll go ahead and prep you for surgery. And if your parents disagree, we'll go ahead and take you away from your parents. This is really the world that we're looking at. This is how far off the rocker these people have gotten. They've gone so far in the other direction that the average person who still has any sanity about them is saying, I just don't know if I can be a part of this. And yet so many people were not able to look at the issues. They don't want to look at the issues. They want to hang on to their gang. But I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. Man, fuck them both. Fuck all of them. The left, the right, the Republicans, the Democrats. You as an individual, use the mind that God gave you to make a rational decision for you and your family. And maybe you come to the conclusion that that decision is, man, we should have voted for old girl last night. Maybe that's that. And it was for a lot of people. And you know what? I'm proud of you because you went out and you voted for what you felt was right. But what we saw in America last night was an uprising of the populace that said, we have had enough. We have been treaded on. We have been walked on. We have been squeezed. We have been pressed. We have been debanked. We have been lied to. We have been made fun of. We've had our kids taken away. We've been thrown into jail. We've been politically persecuted. There were so many Americans last night that said enough is enough, and they stood up and they made their voice heard. That's a beautiful thing. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. That is a beautiful thing. Because it's in those moments where we are able to have discussions and cast our votes. And I'm not talking about the people that are screaming and crying because it didn't go their way right now. There's a lot of that. Let me tell you, 4 years ago, knowing that it was fraudulent, knowing you've got 15 million ballots that just happened to show up in 2020, and they weren't there in 2016, and they weren't there last night. Where did those 15 million ballots go? 15 million? There's been a total of around between 20 and 30 million illegals that have crossed into the border during this administration. They've crossed into the border, into our country, and we're allowed to vote. My kids can't get a book from the library without needing ID, but you can vote for the country without needing an ID. You can't drive a car without an ID. You can't drink without an ID. I still cannot walk into a bar without getting carded. And there ain't no way I look that young. So in every other facet of society, you need an ID to go ahead and do what's needed. But when it comes to the most important thing, which is deciding who the leaders of your country will be, we're going to let this one slide. It's absolute corruption. It is absolute corruption. There's no way around it. And I don't care. I don't care which way you slice it. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And I think what America did last night is, for the first time, people saw how dire the situation was, and they stood up in mass, and they said, we've had enough. I've been encouraging anybody that I talk to today, now's not the time for divisiveness. Now's not the time to go and be pompous and go and, be laughing and saying, we won and none of that stuff. Let me say, we won. America won, not one side. America won. There's just a few people that haven't realized it yet. Give us a year into this. Give us a year into this, and my prediction is we will be out of this war. This war thing will be done. Our economy will be back and booming. This crazy wanting to make your children transgender, or we're going to rob them from the parents type stuff, that's going to be gone. If they get back to drill, baby, drill, and we start having oil, and we start actually using our own resources instead of importing it, where we can be energy independent. Oh my gosh, what a great place to be back. Guys, I went into last night ready for social chaos. I went into last night ready for everything to just collapse and fall apart. I expected last night that halfway through it, we would start having uprisings like we did in 2019. We'd start having riots in some of the major cities and it doesn't take very long, because here's the thing. When you've got these people out there rioting and burning down buildings, yeah, there's a lot of folks that are just out there doing it, but I promise you, there's a lot of government people in there too that are pulling strings, right? And it doesn't take very much for them to start some type of race riot or something, things that are not even embedded in the ideology of Americans. I'm telling you, like, the average American, and I've spent all of last year traveling the country. I went to almost every single state last year, or at least passed through it. Nowhere did I see people that hated America. Now, granted, our audience is awesome American-loving folks that hated America or hated the other side or racist. I can't even tell you the last time I met somebody that was an actual racist. You know what? I think for the most part, across the board, Americans are just normal folks that want to be left alone. They want to be left alone to love their wives, love their kids, do their jobs, hang out with their neighbors, black, white, Muslim, Christian, gay, straight, all of it. Most of us just want to be left alone. We just want to live in peace. And we want to know that when we pay that tax money upward, that it's not going overseas for wars we don't want, but that it's being used to help our communities. It's being used to help our infrastructure. These folks have been embezzling our money for way too long. And I thank God. And I'm going to say this, I believe, and I don't care who agrees with me, I believe this with all my heart because I saw it. There was so many believers across the world, not just last night, but over the past few months, praying and praying and praying and praying in unison. And I know because I was one of them. I can't tell you how many nights over the past 4 years that I've fallen on my face on the carpet and I said, God, save this nation. Save this nation. If we can just seek your face, if we can just look inward and repent, just change our direction, that you might just have pity, have mercy on us and heal our land. Because I'm sick of the divisiveness. Because I don't see it in real life. I get that it's all over the internet, and I get that it's on the media, but it's not what I see in my day-to-day interactions. And we went through some pretty rough places on that last tour. And of course, you have conflict, you have gang type stuff, you have all that stuff. But I didn't see average American folks hating each other in the way that the media is portraying it. These people have been pitting us against each other for years and years and years. And I hope and I pray that now it's just gonna stop. It's got to stop. I love this country. I love it so much that a couple years ago, when my wife and I we saw the direction it was going, and we said we have a very short window on deciding what we want to do. Do we want to get out? Do we want to go ahead and leave? Let me tell you, I've looked at expatriating to Argentina, to Ecuador, to Panama, to Costa Rica. I've looked at New Zealand. I've looked at countries in Europe. That's not going to obviously be a good look, especially with the war and stuff going on. But I've looked all over. Australia. I have looked, and I'm talking about gotten into the weeds on the details of what it takes to uproot my family, move to another country because of what we felt was coming. And it was crazy. 4 years ago, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and just out of nowhere, my wife comes to me and she says, I feel like God is telling us to sell our house. I'm like, okay, that's pretty crazy right there. God's telling us to sell our house. Okay. What do you do with that? How do you process that? I said, babe, I'm gonna have to think on that one because I'm not hearing that or feeling that. And I went up to Nashville, and I was coming back from Nashville on my motorcycle, and just as clear as day, I felt it. I just felt it on my heart. And it sounds crazy, but those of you who have a relationship with God, you know it's not crazy at all. As loud as thunder and as quiet as a whisper, as I'm riding down I-40 on a motorcycle, I hear God's voice in my heart, sell your home. So we did. We put up our home for sale. So our home sold in 2 days. We had no idea where we were going to go. We were effectively homeless with absolutely no reason as to why we should have sold our house. We started looking at land. We expected that this thing was going to start to spiral. We saw the way that the election was leaning. And so we went and looked at some land, looked at 200 acres up in the middle of Tennessee. Almost did it. Last minute, God shut the door. And I'm like, God, man, what are you doing? What are you trying to tell me? We've sold our home. We've got nowhere to go. Here I am, an adult with my wife and our kids, and we're living with my parents in this tiny house in North Georgia. God, what's your purpose in all this? And then one night, just a door opened to come to Florida. I don't even like Florida. Let me be honest with you. I don't like Florida. I mean, The weather's kind of cool in the winter. The people here, for the most part, are kind of jerks, man. Like, if you've driven anywhere in South Florida, it's not a cool place to be on the highway, right? It's just not. I don't love Florida like that. I didn't want to come here. I didn't care for the people. I didn't care for the weather. I was like, there's no way. There's nothing in the world that would get me to move to Florida. The only thing I had in Florida was my daughters. I had 3 daughters that I was really, really looking to rekindle a relationship with. But it seemed impossible for me to go. All of a sudden, the door opened. We came down here just as the housing market was starting to change. And it was impossible. I walked into a house and was looking at this house, wanted to buy this house. I was like, this is great. It's close to my girls. I can make this happen. A guy walks in with $500,000 in a bag, pulls it out from underneath us. That's how wild it was getting down here in South Florida. And I was like, it's not going to work. We got down to the last day. We looked at one last house, and the lady wasn't sure. She had some offers from some guys who had a lot of Bitcoin and whatever. And so I got on the bike, and I told Amanda, I said, I don't think it's going to happen. And I got on the phone with my dad, and I said, Dad, we're coming back home. We're coming back to Atlanta. I don't think it's going to happen. We did all we could. We spent all of our money being down here in hotels looking for a home, and maybe it's not in the cards. I don't understand. As I walked out to start my bike, I got a phone call, and the last home accepted our offer. I was thrilled because I loved the house. We bought the house. It went through. I came down and didn't even realize that there was a 60-foot cross in my backyard from a church that's just right behind us. Didn't even see it until we moved in. The struggle is over the past 4 years of being in Florida, 3.5 years to 4 years of being in Florida, I struggled because I was like, as a prepper, I'm not trying to be on a peninsula when things go to chaos. I want to be up in the woods somewhere where we can be self-sufficient, where I don't have an HOA. I can harvest rainwater. We can have goats. We can have chickens. We can, live off the grid if we need to. A lot like we did in Africa. That most of my life, that's how we lived. And so, like, that lifestyle, in a way, as much as I love, living in a modern lifestyle, there's a great peace to just kind of living like that. And I wouldn't mind or be afraid to go back and living that way again. But I struggled with being down here because it didn't seem like the logical idea to be in Florida. But every single time that I would pull up Zillow to try to get out of here, I'd feel like God knocking on my heart again. Stop trying to be like the Israelites when they left Egypt. You keep looking back, trying to go back to what's behind you. I put you where I put you. I put a sign in your backyard to remind you, just be still and know that I'm God. And that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. I've spent more hours on my face on the carpet in this home praying about yesterday, about what would happen yesterday and what God would do. As we got down to the final weeks prior to the election, I looked at Amanda and I said, we have now reached this window, this point of no return. It's too late to pack up and move. It's too late to go down to South America, whatnot. There's nowhere else we can go. Whatever happens here, we just got to be content to ride it out. It just is what it is. I've been through genocide. I've seen it. I think maybe that's why I have a tendency to say, as I see it coming, let's just go ahead and get out. It's one thing. War is one thing. When you see men fighting men, it's one thing. But when you see men killing children in mass in the street, it's a whole different thing. And I saw this down the pike for us. And I was like, I feel like it's coming. And every piece of me, as a man, as a father, as a husband, was saying, get your family out of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's gone. It's helpless. It's hopeless. Just give up. America's over. There's nothing you can do to save it at this point. And yet every time I pulled up Zillow or I tried to look into an option to get out and to leave, something said, just be still and know that I'm God. When we hit that window a couple weeks ago where we weren't going to be able to get out, it was what it was. We said, okay, whatever happens. I had this strange, crazy peace with it. I had this crazy peace of like, okay, if the America that I know and I love, if it collapses, if it goes, down the gutter, it is what it is. Been through this before, seen the worst of it. I know how to expect it, how to anticipate it, how to hopefully navigate through it. And I do trust, because I've seen this as a kid, that God will bring us through until he chooses that our time is up, and at which point I'm cool with that. And then last night, I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea how this thing was going to go. My prayer was that for the sake of a few, just like God did with Sodom and Gomorrah. If you remember the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, when God comes down, he visits Abraham, and he basically says, if there's 30 good people in the city, will you not destroy? And God says, okay, if there's 30 good people, I won't destroy. Okay, if there's 10, I can't remember what the numbers were originally, but he basically says, if there's so many good people in this city, will you not destroy the city? And God says, sure. And he can't find that many good people. So he says, okay, well, what about if there's just only 20 good people in the city? Couldn't find that many good people. What if it's only 5? My prayer over the past few months was, God, for the sake of a few righteous, please save this nation. Now, I know that I'm not righteous. God, I strive to be. I want to be. And maybe that's what the battle is. Maybe that's what the battle is. It's just striving to do right, even when you don't want to, even when it doesn't feel good, even when it goes against all your guts and your instincts, and it's hard. It's hard to rein yourself in, to pull in your habits and your desires. Trust me. It's hard. I'm a musician. I tour for a living. It's hard to rein in your desires. Every time I see a bag of blow, the desire is there. Every time I see a good-looking woman, the desire is there. My desires are no different than anybody else's desires. I just say, look, man, I understand the path that these things take me down. I've rode that path for a while. Let me just go ahead and just choose to do the right thing now. And there's been times where I've been greatly successful at it, and there's been times where I've failed miserably. But God works all things together for good. If we can just love him and stay called according to his purpose, doesn't mean that we got it perfected. It doesn't mean that we got it right. I think what happened last night is that the American people started praying again. I think somewhere along the course of the past few months, we became one nation under God again, and we did not even realize it. We were praying in our bedrooms, praying in our closets, praying in our cars, praying in our offices at work, and probably had no idea. I didn't have an idea that so many people were praying. People were praying for this nation, and I believe that God heard our prayer, and he was going to give us another season of blessing. What an awesome thing. But let me say this, that season of blessing doesn't come without any responsibility. Now the work begins. Now the work begins for us as a people to band together, to love each other. There's going to be people that are not going to agree with you or love you or side with you because of where you stand. Totally cool. I think it really comes down to saying, all right, let's grab this thing by the horns. Let's just do the right thing. Starting today, let's just do the right thing. Let's love a little harder. Let's be a little bit more patient. Let's put on humility. And let's try to bring this thing back. Because I do believe this. I know Trump is not perfect. When I went to the polls, was it a week or two ago? When I went to the polls, I wasn't going in to vote for my priest. I wasn't voting for a pastor. I wasn't voting for a best friend. I wasn't voting for a guy that I want to listen to talk all the time. I was voting for fruit. For fruit. Jesus said, you should judge a tree by its fruits. The fruit of the administration for the past 4 years was wickedness. It was chaos. It was turmoil. It was collapse. It was decay. It was wars. It was zero prosperity. I don't have to like the other guy. But we were in a very, very unique position because for the first time in my lifetime that I can remember, we had two people that were running for office who had both been in office. And I remember what my paycheck looked like in 2016. 2017, 2018, 2019. I remember the price of gas. I remember the tax code. Look, I don't have to watch the news. Turn that stuff off. You know what? It's like these things are monsters in our closet, and the only reason they're still alive is because we feed them. The only reason that CNN and MSNBC and all of these lying agencies that just pump out division and just vitriol, the only reason that these monsters are still alive is because we feed them. Turn it off. One thing I had to start doing was just put on some music, man. Put on some music. Sometimes I'll sit and just vibe out to just the dumbest music. If I told you the kind of music I'm vibing out to, you probably would never listen to my music again. Sometimes you just got to shut it out. If you feel like you need news, I think it's important to have news, man. Try to find some alternative sources, man. There's a lot going on X. Let me tell you, Elon Musk, I don't care what anybody thinks about Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the Albert Einstein of our generation. It's beyond me that this guy is the leading manufacturer of electric cars. You would think that the left would be praising him, riding him all the way to their global warming bank. You would think that that would be the case. No, he is Satan incarnate. I shouldn't say that because they worship Satan. So he would be whatever the opposite is. I'm not going to say Jesus, but he's not that. You'd think I was watching the other day when he landed that rocket. Are you kidding me? This guy shot a rocket into space and landed it back the way that it shot off. And he did it for what, a quarter of the cost that NASA would do it? No other country in the world can do this. This guy is beyond brilliant. And yet our society is telling us, man, you gotta hate this guy. I got folks around me. It's like, man, he's a mean guy. He's a wicked guy. It's like, you're serious right now? the electric car guy, he's the wicked guy. Like we are so backwards in our thinking because so much of our thinking is not our own. We're told, we're fed, we believe it, and we go. This is the gang I'm rolling with, and we just stick the course. You know, one thing, and I tell my kids this, look, you ain't got to agree with me. I would prefer that you don't, because I've made a lot of stupid decisions in my life. So I would prefer that you do much better. As a father rooting for your growth and your future, I prefer that you do a lot better than me. Don't necessarily agree with me. I'll do my best to point you in the right direction. I'll do the best that I can. I'm not going to nail it 100% of the time. Use the brain that God gave you. Pray over things. Use the discernment in your heart and make the best decision you can with the information that you have. But what I saw last night is that the power of prayer has been hugely underestimated in my life, and I promise you in all of our lives, the power of prayer has been forgotten. It's just been let go of. I've had to do a lot of soul searching over the past couple years. I've had to search the deepest parts of myself to deal with anger, to deal with hurt, to deal with betrayal, to deal with lust, to deal with substance abuse, to deal with all kinds of things. The past 5-10 years of my life have been pretty difficult. Not as hard as the previous 10, but they've been pretty difficult. And I've kind of paused when it came to the music thing because there wasn't a song in me. I didn't have anything in here to spill out. The last album that I dropped, Desperado, it came from such a dark, deep, hurtful place. I was right there going through a divorce, just lost my house, my wife, my kids, lost everything in life. I'm living in this little shack in Georgia with a microphone and a computer to record it. That song Forsaken was not even written. I put up the microphone. I was hurting so bad. I put up the microphone and just sang my feelings and it came out. You got to be in a deep, dark, hurting place to kind of do that. At least I do, right? I haven't been in that place. I've been in a good place of growth for the past 5 years. It's been hard for me to make music. It's been great because I've been able to come out, tour, hang out with you guys, do so many other things, stuff like this. But I've been praying, God, I need a new song. I need a new song in my heart. Not the old one. not that same person from that same place with that same mindset. I need a new song. I need you to change my heart. I need you to wash it, to rinse it, to squeeze out all the crap that's going to poison me or poison the ears of anyone who listens. I need you to squeeze that out. I recognize that there's so much in here that's not right. And so I got to change direction. I'm trying to hit that mark, God. I'm trying my best. I'm such a flawed person. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful when you're able to look inside and say, God, I'm such a flawed person, but God is good. I've been praying for a new song for a while now. And I think he's given it to me. The past couple weeks going up to Nashville recording has been beautiful. And I want to say this to you guys first on here, that the music that I'm going to be giving from this point forward is going to be very, very different. I want to do it with intent. I want it to be God honoring. I've got over 100 songs in my catalog behind me, a lot of which you guys have never even heard. Not a lot of those songs really, really point the way to a good place. I've decided I want that moving forward. I want to make music that honors God, that uplifts my people. Anybody that listens to it are my people. Anybody that is in this nation or overseas that lets that music pass in one ear and out the other is my people. And God has given me this opportunity to speak to people, and I'm ashamed that I've wasted so much of their time. I've been praying for a long time, God, give me a new song. Change my heart, change my mind, change my lips. And God knows I'm still working on this part. Still working on trying to fix this part. Change my lips. Touch my lips. Let me get all the perversion, all the dirtiness off these lips. For so long, I haven't even been able to speak the name of God without feeling ashamed, because out of these lips comes his name, and it's just sad that I'm so back and forth. I want to get to a place, and I say this to all my friends, and I'm going to tell you, I've been praying for a few years now, God, bring some good, strong, godly men into my life. I got awesome men in my life, but I don't have a lot of just hardcore, sold out, God-fearing men in my life. God, bring some just good men into my life that love you, that are seeking you beyond everything. And I'm watching right now. It's funny because I thought God might answer that prayer and just bring some great, strong men in my life. You know what he did? He said, no, let me change the hearts of the ones that you already love. And I'm watching it. I'm watching it in real time. Some of the men that I respect the most in this world, I'm watching their lives change right now. And in such a beautiful way that only God can do. And it's amazing. Let me tell you, we are in a new season. I saw something, to go back to the politics, I saw something the other day with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I love this guy. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., man, just his whole perception of trying to make America healthy again. This is something we're not even thinking about. Listen, you can call this Alex Jones type stuff. The truth is, Alex Jones was right about most of this stuff. We just weren't listening. So much of our air is poisoned. So much of our water is poisoned. So much of our food is poisoned. Our shots are poisoned. I mean, we are just being inundated with poison. We are just, it's crazy that this is even allowed. It's even crazier that we're just going with it. We're just accepting it. We're taking it all in, pushing it on our kids. Do you realize what type of person you have to have been to withstood 2020? Those of you, let me say this, and this is not dogging on anybody who made any medical decisions for themselves. Hey, man, every person was put in a position that they were, and they made the decisions they had to do. But for you guys that got through 2019 and 2020 without that medical decision that was being forced on everybody, you guys are beasts. You stood strong against the biggest ad campaign for your health. I'm talking about this thing being pushed. They're trying to convince you with French fries and burgers in New York, donuts here, and I mean just rock stars everybody's trying to push you into the decisions. It's like what happened to the whole my body, my choice thing. It's just gone out the window, right? This is the problem that I have. All of these arguments, they only hold on the one side that fits the narrative. It's not about that, man. There's no rationality in that. For you guys that made the decision to get through that, man, God, I salute you. I salute you. I didn't do it. Somewhere along the way, I was like, something ain't right about this. I'm not doing it. You're not going to force it on me. You're not going to force it on my kids. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to break. I'm not going to bend. Fuck yourself. And I know that a lot of Americans were not in a place where they were able to make that decision. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose that. Man, we have been stepped on for the past 5 years, and the stepping on is over. It's time for a change. It's time for a change. It's time for our country to regain its sovereignty, its morality, its health. God, I would love to see our people healthy again. I was listening to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He was talking about this, and I love this guy. I would have voted for this guy. Love this guy. And he was talking about the different stuff that calcifies in your body and how it affects your bones, right? And how a lot of, whether it's the aluminums or the different things, right, that are just we're being inundated with, how it calcifies your pineal gland. You get this guy, they're talking about, we'll see if this happens, but they're talking about putting this guy overseeing the CDC, the USDA, the FDA. You're serious right now. The guy who's talking about the government is poisoning our bodies, it's calcifying our pineal glands. Your pineal gland, your third eye as they call it, right? That's responsible for your spiritual awareness. That sounds crazy. That sounds like crazy talk, right? It sounds a little bit like crazy. It's not crazy talk. You get into yoga or any of these things, that's one of the things they're going to try to teach you is meditation and breathing and your chakras and your third eye and all that stuff, right? Your pineal gland is responsible for your spiritual awareness of things. Now, can you bypass that? 100%. I think 100%. If you're being inundated with things that are dulling your spiritual senses, can it actually dull your spiritual senses? 100%. We're now at a place where we've got a person who is going to be potentially overseeing the heads of health in the United States of America, and these are in his thought processes. Good for us. Good for us. God bless America. Good for us. See, here's the thing. If this starts to take place, if this starts to change, this ain't a left or right thing. This ain't a Republican, Democrat thing. This is a great awakening thing. It's a spiritual awakening where our people, our country, our nation, of every single race, of every single religion, of every single creed, of whatever blue collar, white collar, whatever side of the tracks that you're from, our people as Americans can live healthy, can live prosperous, and hopefully live at peace together. I think a big problem with the peace is that we just have no spiritual awareness. We've been so blinded and dumbed and dulled and stepped on by our own government for so long that we've just taken it. I hear so many men talk so tough about all the things that they'll do to stand up. That's awesome, bro. Awesome, awesome. Can you stand up right now in the little things that take any other effort other than a violent effort? Because let me tell you something. It's easy to be violent. I know how easy it is to let anger grip you and drag you down some terrible rabbit hole that you'll never return from. It takes a different type of strength to put your hands to the plow and say, I refuse to be violent, but I refuse to bend. It takes a different type of fortitude and resolve to say, I'm going to stand my ground no matter what. I'm not going to bend. I'm not going to break, but I'm not going to allow myself to become all of the things that everybody wants me to become. I'm not going to be dragged down the road that these wicked people are trying to drag me down. I'm looking at this, and it's beyond me how we even have a debate at this point. I'm looking at, you've got Elon Musk. This is the Albert Einstein of our time. And it was kind of a beautiful thing to see just the variety of people from so many different walks of life. You got Elon Musk, you got Joe Rogan, Dana White, you got Tulsi Gabbard, you got RFK Jr. This is such a wild blend of people from so many different perspectives, who don't agree with each other who came together, right? I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is wild. This is crazy. And then you got the Diddy list and the Epstein list on the other side. And I'm thinking, we're actually having a debate about this. We are actually going to sit here and vote on this. We've got some of the greatest minds in technology, some of the greatest minds in health and in politics. We've got the greatest podcasting voice in the world. And we're genuinely going to debate with the Diddy people. We're going to have an election between these two sides. GHB, Baby Oil Boy, and the greatest minds that America has to offer in this moment. God, the choice is so clear. The choice was so clear. But here's the thing. Okay, we are where we are. And I'm going to say this. The race, we're not through this yet. The race is not done. Like I said, we got a couple months before we see this through. You got China that's still trying to eat our lunch. And we don't know how things are going to go with Russia. But what I did see is I saw a beautiful resolve in the American people. I saw it after Helene in North Carolina. I saw it, man. I saw Americans pull together and knuckle together when the government wouldn't come out and do what they were supposed to do to help their citizens. I saw Americans knuckle up and go through and help their fellow man. That's what this country is about. That's what we as people are about. Helping our fellow man, our neighbors, no matter what they believe, no matter if we disagree with them, when they are in their time of need. That's what America's about. It made me feel like right after 9/11 again. It made me feel just like that, man. When you saw all these, once we got attacked on 9/11, you see all these people coming together, loving each other, willing to help each other. They weren't asking, excuse me, which side of the aisle are you on before I dust this dust off of you, sir? The firemen didn't walk into the building and start asking people whether or not they had been vaccinated before they lifted their bodies out. You were here. You were on this soil. I'm going to help you. Look, I'm not one for politics, but that's where I want to be. Just make rational decisions. And I want to be on the side of people who are moving forward in a beautiful way, not in a sinful way, not in a wicked way, not in a way that's full of deceit and lies. I sat there and I watched that Kamala lady lie to our face over and over. And it's like, we're genuinely going to fall for this? I could not believe it's like, there's no way people are going to genuinely fall for this. I'm like, we're watching it. We're watching it in real time. And it's just like, God, what have we become? What kind of a cult have we become that we're just going to just go blindly? We're just going to walk blindly like lambs to the slaughter because this is what that side says. Come on, man. Come on. We are at a new awakening, I believe, in America. But our struggle is not over. There's a time for struggle. We got some struggle ahead. And so my encouragement, man, to every single one of you guys out there is no matter what side of the fence you're on, no matter what medical decisions you made, no matter what you feel, if you're pro-life or pro-choice or pro-electric cars or pro-whatever, like just whatever gang you're with, take that effort to put your hand to the plow, to restore the love with the people around you. It's easy to get soaked up in anger. It's easy to get soaked up in hatred. It's easy to go to war. It's a lot harder to make peace. It's a lot harder to keep peace. God, what a beautiful, what a beautiful dawn. What a beautiful dawn. For the first time in about 4 years, I just felt at peace yesterday, and it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. I was watching this guy on stage, and I was like, I get that I'm going to have to hear this guy again over the course of the next couple of years. I get it. I just, I didn't really listen to him a whole lot the first time. There was moments where it was funny. He's great with actually, I take that back. Donald Trump was great on Rogan. He was good in that long format type thing. But, sometimes I don't want to listen to the guy. But the guy had solid policies. He had solid people. And the people prayed for this nation. They came together. Now, I'm going to be honest about something. So we pulled up. And I was just trying to get a beat on what was happening in America today. And I'm just seeing it. And you're seeing all these people that are these like liberals that are breaking down, these folks on the left that are breaking down because of what happened. And I have to check myself because I'm watching these insane reactions. And my first thought was to laugh. And my wife checked me. And God bless her for this. She checked me. She said, I feel for these people. They're hurting right now. They genuinely believe that their life is about to be changed for the worse. And, as much as I kind of was enjoying the laughter over what I was saying versus wanting to check my feelings, I had to check my feelings and think, you know what, you're right. These people are struggling. They're hurting. The times are uncertain for them. They have the same flesh and same soul that I have. They just bought into this lie. And now there's no hope. And the reality is it's a lie on either side most of the time. The hope is not found in men. I believe in my heart that there is only hope in Jesus Christ. Outside of that, we're all struggling. And I think there's purveyors of that. You guys, there's not going to be a post on this feed where somebody doesn't talk about how much the music has touched their life or how much an interaction that we've had together has touched their life. Where do you think that comes from? You think that comes from me? Do you think that I'm able to write something on a paper and it's able to just genuinely inspire you? Like, I'm a terrible person. On the inside out, unchecked, I am a rotten person. I've made stupid, rotten decisions, and if I'm left alone to my own devices, I promise you I will make more of them. The light that you guys see in me is only when I just allow myself to just give God the reins and say, God, just use whatever you can use in this garbage here. Just take me for all that I am and all that I'm not, and just use me to the best of your abilities. God to give you the range. Just do something awesome with everything that I've destroyed. And he does. He does. Every single day, I get on Facebook or I get on social media and I see you guys posting about how this has touched your life or this has changed your life or these words have moved you to make these type of decisions. It's not me. There's nothing in me, nothing good in me that can invoke that type of awakening in you. See, as a soul, you are a vessel. As a body, you are simply a vessel for the soul. So you got to fill your soul. Either way, you're going to be walking around with an empty vessel inside you or a full vessel inside you. When we fill what's in here with God, when we allow Jesus to just light up inside of us, let me tell you, everything that we touch is brightened. Every person that comes across our path, whether they agree with us or not, sees it. In the midst of everything that I've had the opportunity to be in life, the opportunity to be and failed, the one thing I want to be every day, a little bit more, now until the day that I'm dead and I'm gone, is just sold out for Jesus. I don't care what anybody thinks about it. Right now, this feed could get my entire music career shut down on Facebook. I don't care. I really don't care. We're at a place the truth needs to be spoken. And I don't care how many stones get thrown because of it. I believe that right now America sits at a new dawn, and it is beautiful. But we have to choose to join it. We have to choose to join this awakening, to allow ourselves to just do the right thing, to stop falling in line with all these people that have been trying to destroy us for the past, I'm going to say 5 years, but it's not even 5 years, the past 40 years, 100 years, this stuff goes back. Because you were made for so much more. You are a vessel holding a vessel. What does that vessel inside you look like? Is it full? Some days I'm full on the inside, man. Some days I realize that it's almost like there's only so much space in here. I can only fill it with one thing. Some days I fill it with a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of frustration because my kids are driving me crazy, or the guy down the street, he cut me off at the stop sign, or whatever it is. And I allow those things to get in. But what's in here can only hold so much. And what goes in comes out. When I look out and I see all the deception, all the lies, all the just wickedness that's come from our government, what goes in comes out. And we're sitting here going along with it. I don't care how tough any man that hears this feed is, how hard you think you can stand against the powers that be if they try to suppress you. I don't care what you say. The tougher battle is to stand day after day after day unwavering with peace in you, on you, and just spilling out of you. Because that vessel, once it spills out, it's contagious. If it's nothing but hate and anger and lies and bitterness and deception in here and it's pouring out, that's what the world is going to see. That's what they're going to soak in, and it just cycles. One thing about laughter, man, is laughter is one of those things where once you start hearing laughter, it's hard. It's hard to not laugh with it. Once you see people being angry, it's hard to not get angry. Over the coming months, people are going to get angry. Probably angrier. Maybe not. I hope. I pray I'm wrong. I've actually been wrong about quite a bit. I genuinely thought we were going to be at a very, very, very dark time right now. And granted, we're not there yet, but I pray I'm wrong. But imagine filling yourself in here full of truth and love and hope and patience and meekness, strength, clothed in humility. There's a beauty to knowing that your life is purposed, that you have purpose. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool when your words have purpose. That's the part I think where most of us fall short. I do. It's cool when your words can have purpose, when the purpose inside of you can come out of you and spill out of you and touch people. That's my challenge. No matter what happens around us in the coming months, no matter what happens in the coming years, I believe with all my heart that God heard the prayers of the saints, that God heard the prayers of his church. He heard the prayers of this one nation that was under God. And you know what? God, forgive us for not making those prayers, for not getting on our knees and weeping earlier. God, forget what were we doing? That's most religious folks, man. We live in our comfort zones, and it's not until the world is shaken that we start doing things. I believe God heard the prayers of his church, of his bride, as the Bible calls it. And he granted us another season of blessing. But a season comes and goes very, very shortly. I think we have one more chance to decide what we're going to do with the time that he's given us, with the country that he's given us, with the children that he's given us, with the politicians that we're choosing. We can discuss all the social issues, and I guarantee you every single one of us on here isn't going to agree on all of them. That's cool. As for me and my house, I just want to serve the Lord. That's it. I don't judge nobody. Who am I to judge anybody? I try my best to love even my enemies, and it's not easy. But God has taught me to even love my enemies. You want to talk about a hard lesson? You want to talk about one of the hardest lessons you can learn as a man is learning to love your enemies. It's probably one of the most impossible things that a man can learn to do, because he definitely can't learn to do it by his own strength. There's no way in me I'm able to learn that by my own strength. And the grace of God is so good, so good. My encouragement to all you guys is this: love, man, get out and love. This is not about left and right. This is not about Republican or Democrat. This is not about this side or that side. It's not about agreeing with each other. I don't need anyone on this feed tonight to validate me and tell me I'm doing okay. I don't need you to say, you know what, Cruce, you're on the right path. I don't care. I don't care. I know in my heart what I feel is right, where my conviction is pounding me. And I say, look, I'm going to plant my flag, and this is it. I'm not going to move. I don't care what anybody thinks about it. And in that, truth and love is one of the greatest gifts that any man or woman can hand to their brothers or sisters. Truth and love. See, somewhere along the way, We stopped speaking truth because we thought that truth might hurt or offend, and that's not loving. Sometimes you have to offend or risk being offensive in order to build up those you love. If I'm about to go on stage and I got a booger on my face, this has actually happened. This happened on the last tour. Big old booger on your face. Is a friend going to tell you, hey, you got a booger on your face, or are they not going to tell you? Come on. We've got to risk offending. We've got to risk hurting people's feelings. At the end of the day, what are your feelings, man? My feelings are up and my feelings are down. They play very little bearing on my actual life. Actually, no, I take that back. They play a very big bearing in my life, but on who I am as a person, they're not. Feelings are back and forth, man. People who live according to their feelings, you're like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. You're back and forth. We got to get to a place where we can speak truth and love. And right now, there's a lot of folks in America that are broken because they think this is the end of democracy. They think this is the end, period. My encouragement to all my people on this feed, anybody that sees this, is, you know what? Get out and show them or whoever crosses your path that you are living proof that it's not the end. That no matter how much chaos or how much stupidity, no matter how far off the rails any side goes, that you are going to be a force of strength, clothed in humility, that's willing to speak truth and love. And I promise you what happens is that the light that is inside of you will spill out onto the people that cross your path. You wonder how we got so far down this road? Because we just stopped caring enough about people to tell them the truth. To just put our arms around them and say, look, man, this ain't the right way. This ain't the right way. We just let people kind of run off the cliff, and we don't care. I challenge you guys, and I challenge myself over the coming months. Be strong in here first. Stand strong in here. Know what your convictions are. Know where you stand, and don't bend. Don't fold. And be a force of love. Be a force of love. No matter which decisions you've made, no matter where you're at on that political spectrum, you don't have to agree with everybody. But let's just love. Let's just love, man. That's where I'm at. Guys, I hope you enjoyed just sitting here chatting tonight. I think this feels good. I feel like this is kind of like therapy. I'm just sitting here just saying how I feel. It's kind of a good thing. If you guys could, man, follow me on YouTube, CruceTalk. Follow me on YouTube, CruceTalk. Subscribe. I'm probably not going to be doing too many of these videos on Facebook. We'll see. Maybe do it. But I'd like to kind of move this conversation to that channel where we can just kind of build, and that's what it's for, man. People who are just coming there for the conversation. Maybe this type of conversation is not for you. Totally cool. All good, man. Maybe you like the music. You don't like the conversation. Maybe you don't ever want to listen to the music again because of the conversation. All good, man. Totally cool. At least you know where I stand now on a lot of things. I said a lot of things that I probably wouldn't say last week for whatever reason, because I don't know. I'm weak sometimes too. Sometimes I'm still a work in progress, and I'm still figuring things out. And I can't say that I'm there yet, but I can say this. God has done an amazing work in our country, and it's all glory to him. It's all glory to him. And I'm not going to sit on any microphone for the rest of my life and say anything other than that. That's all I want to say. And I pray that that's my new song, whatever that looks like, new music that's coming. God, just speak. I just want to honor you. I've spent enough years, enough days, enough time just wasting words. So, yeah. I love you guys. Bookface, I love y'all. Please jump on Cruce Talk on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Follow me. And we'll have more of these. I enjoyed it. Hope you guys have an awesome night. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll do this again soon. Peace.